I believed in the system. And this is what it's doing to me and my family. It's wrecking our lives. It's trying to murder me. And so I was just exhausted, but I didn't give up. I also knew that the whole world was gonna know what they did to me because I was gonna tell everybody.
Hi there, welcome to the second part of my interview with Anthony Graves. If you haven't watched or listened to the first part yet, I highly recommend you do. It sets the stage for everything you're about to hear. If you're already caught up, let me just refresh your memory. In August 1992, the Texas Rangers came to Anthony's home and arrested him. He was charged for capital murder for a horrific crime that took place a few days before, a crime he had no connection to. Why? Because Robert Carter, a man he barely knew, accused him of being his accomplice. A grand jury was assembled. Anthony didn't request a lawyer. He thought his innocence would speak for itself. At this point, he doesn't know if he will be indicted. He sits in jail and he's asked to do something.
Every time they asked me to do something, I would cooperate. They wanted me to do a lineup, a live lineup, and I said, sure, no problem. Every time we do something, they would try to find reason to say that I was involved in this. But in my naivete, my naive state of mind, I'm innocent, so it doesn't matter. I do whatever you want. So we did a live lineup, and they went and got a couple of young guys off the streets and brought in for the lineup. But the way they did the lineup is that had 7 slots for 7 people to go in. They had already put everybody up on a number except for number 4. So everybody in street clothes except for me. They bring me in last in handcuffs and in a jail outfit. They have a lady behind a window, a one-way window, who was supposed to have been at the store the night when she said she seen 2 guys come there and buy gas, right? They're making this the whole story up. So when they escorted me and had me take place under number 4, I was number 1, the oldest person in there, which was like the age that they say the person was supposed to be. All these other kids were younger than me. The lady that was behind the glass, when I walked through, she could see me in jail outfit and them taking the handcuffs off me, right? So in her mind, he got to be the person because he's the only one in jail. But she had a husband back there also who's saying that's not the guy. We don't know, they never said that to us. When they go through the lineup, and after the lineup, they come back in and they let everybody go. And they told me, not so fast, I've been picked out of a lineup. More games that instead of being played with me. So at this point, now I'm frustrated because I've been cooperating you. I've allowed you to test my clothes. I've talked to you extensively. I've done your photo, your lineup. I'm trying to prove to you, which is not the law, but I'm trying to prove to you I'm innocent. So after this, and they're telling me that, hey, no, you know, you've been picked out of a lineup, I get frustrated. I say, hey man, I want a lawyer. Because I'm cooperating with you guys and y'all started trying to put this on me. I want a lawyer. So at that point, they bagged off and then they appointed me an attorney. No, they didn't appoint me an attorney at first. I called my former employer and asked him if he could help us get a lawyer because I didn't have no money to get a lawyer. And he hired a lawyer for me initially, a well-known lawyer at the time, criminal defense attorney. And that's how I ended up getting a lawyer.
In October, there is a bond hearing. Your lawyer is with you. And how does it go?
That was a bond hearing to see, you know, if I could get a bail. Because when they charged me with this, they gave me no bail. So my lawyer set up for a bond hearing. But during that morning, my lawyer came to see me before we had the hearing. And he tells me, I want to prepare you to let you know that they're not going to give you a bond. And I said, well, why is that? He said, because this is an election year and no judge is going to let the papers read, judge let suspected murderer out. So I just want you to be prepared that they're not going to give you a bond. Well, in my naive state, I didn't want to hear that because I want to go home. I don't have no business being in no jail. So I'm holding on to the fact that he don't know what he's talking about. He's just trying to prepare me for the worst. But when we get there, they'll hear the truth. I can go home. Once again, politics got in the way. That's not how it works.
So you had to stay in prison. And several weeks later, 3 weeks later, a jailer brings you your indictment papers.
Yeah, you did your homework. Yeah, so I after the hearing, we go back to the jail. I was denied bond. They take me back to the jail, and now I've been in jail almost 3 weeks. But I'm cooperating. I just want to go home. Whatever y'all need to do so that I can go home. But after 3 weeks, I'm standing at the door of my cell, and the officer comes in and calls my name, and he walks and gives me some papers. When I look at the paper, it's some indictment paper saying that I have been indicted and charged for capital murder, which means I'm gonna have to go to trial now, which means that I'm gonna have to continue to be in jail. While whoever done this here is still out there. I'm gonna now, they're playing politics with my life. And so now I'm gonna have to stay in jail. I can't afford justice. And they knew that.
Just after you received those indictment papers, so you stay in jail, you're depressed, and you receive a letter from your attorney, this really expensive attorney. What does he say?
Yeah, I'm in jail, and I don't know if I'm depressed. I'm pissed. I'm hurt. I'm disappointed. Because I believe in our criminal justice system. And now I'm experiencing the worst of it. And I have a good attorney, but I couldn't pay him the money that he wanted. He wanted $150,000. My friend only gave him $10,000 to look into the case because everybody knew I was innocent. No one felt we won't have to pay that kind of money. But this attorney wanted $150,000, well-known attorney. And since we couldn't pay it, he eventually wrote me a letter getting off my case, but telling me that he believed in my innocence. But because we couldn't pay him, he had to get off my case. And he just left me for the dogs, man. He just left me for the dogs. So.
How did you find another attorney? Tell us what your mother had to do for that.
Well, my mom told me that my brother had a girlfriend who worked part-time in a law office, and that she had talked to this lawyer who said he would take the case. But she had to retire from work to draw down her retirement and use it to pay for the attorney to represent me. So my mother had to quit her job that she had been on almost 30 years and draw down her retirement to use it to pay for an attorney that shouldn't have been paid. He became my court-appointed attorney, and the court started paying him. So my mom, after a while, she had to be off her job for a while, and then she tried to reapply, but because of what they were accusing me of, they was making it hard for her to get her job back. And so it was just, everything was just snowballing out of control.
Wow. And this new lawyer has no experience in a case like yours.
He had only sat second chair as a second chair attorney on another capital case, which reached a plea agreement. So he had never had any trial experience. He had been an attorney, I think, 3 to 5 years, that's it, and no real trial experience in capital case. Capital case is totally different from any other type of case, right? And he was not experienced.
A year after your arrest, the DA, the district attorney, Sebasta, offers you a life sentence.
Yeah.
How do you react to that?
The same way I'm reacting now. I mean, why would I take a life sentence for something I didn't do? So that was kind of like over my head. I didn't even understand that question or that proposal. You know, best thing you can do is admit your mistake and let me go home. That was the only thing in my mind.
In February 1994, you've been in prison since a year and a half, and then the trial of Robert Carter starts. And what he's going to say is that either of you did the crimes.
Yeah, my attorney said, come back and told me that that's what he said on the witness stand. I don't know what he said. All I know is that 6 months later, I was going to trial.
Robert Carter will have the death penalty. So you learned that your trial will be 6 months later. How do you feel about this sentence at that time, and how do you feel about your trial coming?
I had no feelings. I was excited to get to trial. Remember, I'm naive. I'm innocent. So to me, I need to get to trial.
Still at that point?
Yeah, I don't know Mr. Carter. I don't know if he did or didn't do it. That's not my concern. I know I didn't do it. I need to get to court. I need to get to trial so that I can go home and be with my family. I don't know nothing about Mr. Carter. So I didn't have no feelings one way or the other about his sentence. I was just excited that in 6 months I could finally go to trial because I had been pushing, asking them to take me to trial, you know, and they kept putting it off.
So in October 1994, the jury selection begins, and the jury ends up with one black guy and 11 white people. The local population was 30% black. How do you feel about this?
It's our typical American judicial system. It's when you go and look at most of these courtrooms, America's on trial, someone is on trial, and you look in the jury, it's mostly always white, predominantly always white. And they're put in a position to make a decision on someone they have unconscious biases against, right? And when I seen it, I already knew what was happening. As a matter of fact, when they picked the jury and they went back into the jury room, my attorney came to me and he says, I'm gonna go back to the back and see who they're gonna pick as the foreman of the jury. And I said to him, it's gonna be the black man. And he was like, why you say that? It's gonna be the black man. So he goes in, and 5 minutes later he comes out, and he says, how did you know it was gonna be the black man? I said, man, them people finna convict me before they even hear this case. And they're gonna put the black man as the face of the jury. It's that simple, that's history. It's history in this country. And I'm seeing it playing out right in front of me. I knew at that point I had no chance. They was not gonna hear me. It was a black man sitting up here trying to tell white people that he didn't do something, while white people was accusing him of it. I was in a no-win situation.
2 officers testified during the trial. They said they heard you talk about your involvement in the crime to Carter when you guys were in jail. And were you and your lawyer able to prove it wasn't true?
Yeah, they debunked all that, man. That was the prosecutor trying to throw something up on the wall to see if something stuck because they had nothing. So now you got people who never met me in the jail, and you done went down there to get them to come and tell that they heard me say something, except for they wasn't really trying to say they heard me say what they were trying to get them to say. One guy came, thought he was testifying to me being innocent, and they twist that up, right? And he didn't realize that they were trying to make him say, he heard me say something that was incriminating. That was not what he was trying to convey. He was trying to say basically he didn't hear me say any of those things, but nevertheless, the jury took it wrong. It was just the state trying to put something together to say this is why we're here. Otherwise, you couldn't justify taking me to trial. You had to get somebody to lie. And so deals were offered for a lie.
Robert Carter comes and testifies, and this time, what does he say?
Robert Carter comes and testifies, and they asked him if the person that did the crime with him was in the room. He said yes. And they asked him if he could point the person out, and he pointed at me without looking at me. But what we didn't realize is prior to that, Mr. Carter was being interrogated in the back because he was telling them that I was innocent and that he didn't want to testify against me. But they told him that if he didn't testify, they was going to go back after his wife. Because remember, I told you they had already charged her with it and then let her go. But they said they'll go back at her if he don't testify because there's no statute of limitation on capital murder. So Mr. Carter later on said that he lied on me because if he didn't, they was going to go back after his wife. We didn't know that they had Mr. Carter up in there and that Mr. Carter was refusing to testify. We don't find this out till years later.
When you heard him pointing his finger at you, how did you feel?
I was disappointed because I really thought he was going to tell the truth because he don't know me. And in my mind, how do you get up here and just say something about a man you don't even know, right? But I didn't have no really good attorneys to draw that out, right? I had attorneys that believed in me. They felt that I was innocent, but they didn't know how to master the courtroom at that time. Maybe they do today, but not at that time. So they couldn't draw it out, the information that was needed so that the jury could know that this, number one, this man don't even know me, okay? Number two, he had been in the back telling them that I was innocent, right? But nobody could extract that information because the prosecutor them hid all that.
Your lawyer didn't ask any questions about you to Carter.
No.
It would have shown he had no idea who you were.
Yeah, he didn't ask those questions. And when I was trying to convey this to my attorneys, they just told me, hey, don't question the legal strategy. It's not a legal strategy. This man don't know me. And you're not asking him any questions about me. Their strategy was just to hurry up and get him down. But the jury already heard what he said. So it was just immature attorneys that I had, lack of, not immature, but immature in the sense of trial experience. They had no real concept of how to try a capital case. But God blessed them because they believed in me. And I would never talk bad or throw them under the bus, but the reality is they didn't have the experience that I needed.
On that tragic night, at some point your brother was on the phone with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
You picked up the phone, you sang.
Yeah, he was singing.
He was singing and you also picked up the phone and talked to that girl?
I talked to the woman because she was wanting to know who I was because he was telling her that I was laughing in the background because I walked into the bedroom and he was singing to her and I started singing in the background laughing. And so she asked him who I was and he told her that was his older brother. And I got on the phone and she was asking me about, I forgot what artist it was that she liked it, and I told her that I had heard it was a country, I think it was a country and western artist or something. So I talked to her for about maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and then gave him back the phone.
So did this girl testify on your behalf at the trial?
No, man, because this girl was white, as an older woman that was talking to my young brother on the phone, and her background was that her parents didn't approve of that type of relationship. So she was afraid to come forward and tell what she knew, which is that she talked to me when I was at home. Initially, she was going to come forward until the DA and them found out that she was one of my witnesses. And after they went and talked to her, all of a sudden she forgot everything, and she was refusing to come forward. She didn't want her dad and them, her parents and them to find out that she was talking to my younger brother that time of night on the phone. So it was more important to her to keep it a secret and just let the state kill me.
And your girlfriend?
My lady friend.
Your lady friend, she
Yeah.
had a boyfriend, so she has no interest in testifying in your behalf. But she was about to. Tell us what happened.
She had come to testify as to my whereabouts during this time period. Because she and I was, as I said earlier, at my mother's apartment. Had made a pallet and was sleeping in the front room. Well, by the time she got ready, we was gonna call her up to testify. The prosecutor jumps up and asks to put something on the record outside the presence of the jury. And nobody knew what he was doing. So when the jury was excused, the prosecutor went on to say that my witness had now become a suspect. And should she testify, it was highly likely that they were going to seek an indictment of capital murder against her. Now, my witness is only 22 years old, okay? And so my attorneys heard this and say, well, Your Honor, we have to go and tell her that because she don't have no representation. So they go and tell her what the prosecutor just said. She gets so scared, start crying, she runs out of the courtroom. She don't want to have nothing to do with it. And then after that happened, the prosecutor then goes back to the jury and says to the jury, well, where's his alibi witness, Miss Mathis? Why she's not here to testify? They don't know that he just scared her up with prosecution should she come testify. So it made it look like I was lying about my whereabouts and about my alibi witness. And they used that against me, not knowing that the prosecutor had just threatened her with prosecution, which was an ethical violation because there was no evidence that says that he had any right to charge her with anything. It was to scare her off, and then it was to make the jury think that I was lying, and it worked.
Yeah, because they had nothing against her.
They had absolutely nothing against her nor me, other than Mr. Carter lied.
How did you feel about her reaction? I mean, are you mad at her today, or were you at that time? Because it was your main alibi. You had spent the night with her.
I didn't understand enough about the dynamics of everything to be upset or what at her, because I didn't realize how much my freedom hinged on her testimony. I was just innocent. You shouldn't have been able to convict me no matter what. I should have been protected, regardless of whether she testified or not. There was nothing there to say I did a crime. So it didn't bother me that she run up out of there. I still had my brother to testify to me being at home. I had my sister who never testified because my attorney didn't. I just had poor representation. I had a prosecutor that was racist, that didn't mind messing my life up for whatever reason. And I had a flawed system that I had to deal with.
Your brother testifies, but that's not enough. And the jury finds you guilty of capital murder. How do you feel at that point, and what's the next step?
So, as I said, when the jury selected the only black person as the foreman of the jury, I knew then what was to take place. It didn't matter what was said in the courtroom. They've already determined that I was going to be guilty, because it was someone looking like them accusing me of this, and it was someone looking like me representing me. I was in a no-win situation, man, a no-win situation, and so I was just exhausted, mentally drained, because I wanted to believe in the system. And for 2.5 years I had been in jail waiting to go to trial. I just felt like going to trial and letting the truth come out, I'd go home. And when that didn't happen, I was just mentally and emotionally just drained. So much so that the prosecutor thought I didn't understand. And they told the judge this, and the judge asked my attorney to bring me up to his bench to make sure that I understood what was going on. But I understood. I was just mentally drained, man, and disappointed in our criminal justice system because I believed in the system. And this is what it's doing to me and my family. It's wrecking our lives. It's trying to murder me. And so I was just exhausted, but I didn't give up. I also knew that the whole world was gonna know what they did to me because I was gonna tell everybody.
2.5 years. And through it all, he knew he couldn't give up. That's heartbreaking. Anthony wrote a book called Infinite Hope. Please read it to know more about his fight for justice. If you're interested in similar interviews, please check out the 5-part interview I did with Pamela Perio, who's a survivor of Texas death row. And I also recommend You watched the panel with Kerry Max Cook, who spent years on death row for a crime he didn't commit. Although it was not my interview, I tried to do the best edit to offer you the best experience. If you've been through a death row story yourself, or if you know someone who has, please reach out. I would be curious to know more. And don't forget to subscribe, to share. It really warms me up to have your support, and I need that here, right? Thank you.